The city of Chicago had a rhythm, a heartbeat of hurried footsteps, blaring horns, and the distant wail of a saxophone. For Jamal, that rhythm was the soundtrack to his invisibility. He lived in the spaces between the beats, in the alley off Michigan Avenue where the wind cut like a razor, and the dumpsters offered both treasure and torment. Jamal wasn't just a homeless man, he was a curator of the forgotten. Where others saw trash, he saw a story. A crushed Pepsi can held the memory of a summer thirst. A tattered newspaper headline was a ghost of yesterday's triumphs and tragedies. A shard of a broken green bottle was a sliver of envy or hope. These were his paints, his clay, his canvas. His studio was a patch of concrete, protected from the rain by a faded blue tarp. His gallery was the brick wall behind him. Using a paste made from scavenged flour and water, he created mosaics, portraits of staggering depth and emotion. He pieced together faces from discarded scraps. A woman's eye from the glossy lens of a shattered phone, a man's weary frown from the corrugated ribs of a cardboard box, a child's smile from a bright yellow piece of a discarded toy. His art was a testament to the beauty that could be found in the broken. People rushed past, their eyes fixed on phones or shop windows, casting fleeting, pitying glances at the man on the ground, but never truly seeing the masterpieces at his back. They drop $1 into his coffee cup, a gesture that bought him a hot meal but missed the point of his existence entirely. He wasn't begging, he was exhibiting. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the sky threatened a cold rain, a woman in a sharp, elegant coat stopped. She wasn't looking at Jamal. She was staring, utterly transfixed, at his latest work. It was a portrait of an old jazz musician, his face a collage of rust-eaten metal, his saxophone a gleaming curve of polished aluminum from a street sign, and his eyes, two dark, smooth stones, seemed to hold all the sorrow and soul of the blues. The woman's name was Isabella Rossi, a notoriously discerning art dealer whose gallery was just 3 blocks away. She was jaded by the art world's commercialism, the endless parade of minimalist canvases that sold for millions but said nothing. What she saw on this grimy brick wall was more real, more raw, than anything she had seen in years. "Who made this?" she asked, her voice quiet but firm. Jamal looked up, his hands stained with grime and glue. "I did." Isabella knelt, ignoring the damp pavement. "It's extraordinary. The texture, the narrative. You're not just assembling trash, you're resurrecting it." Jamal had heard a lot of things in his life, insults, dismissals, empty promises, but he had never heard his work described like that. He simply nodded. Isabella saw the deep, intelligent light in his eyes, a light undimmed by hardship. "I want to show your work," she said, pulling a business card from her purse. "My gallery. I'll give you a solo exhibition. We'll call it The Ghosts of the Gutter." Jamal stared at the crisp white card. It felt as foreign in his hand as a winning lottery ticket. He'd been on the streets for 5 years, ever since a factory layoff cascaded into losing his apartment, his family, and his hope. Trust was a currency he could no longer afford. "People like you don't talk to people like me," he said, his voice raspy. "People like me," Isabella replied, her eyes meeting his. "Search our entire lives for artists like you." Against his better judgment, Jamal went to her gallery the next day. Isabella gave him a studio space in the back, clean and warm, with high ceilings and a wall of windows. She paid for mountains of materials, not expensive paints, but meticulously sourced refuse from scrap yards and recycling centers. For the first time in years, Jamal had a space to create without the fear of rain washing his work away or city workers carting it off as trash. He worked with a feverish intensity. He built bigger, more ambitious pieces. He created a sprawling cityscape from broken electronics, its skyline glittering with shattered screens. He crafted a life-size sculpture of a mother and child from discarded clothing, their forms conveying a powerful, silent embrace. He was telling the story of his life, of the people he'd known, of the city that had both abandoned and sustained him. The night of the exhibition, Jamal stood awkwardly in a borrowed suit, feeling more out of place than he ever had on the street. The gallery was filled with the city's elite, sipping champagne and murmuring in hushed tones. At first, they were hesitant, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and condescension. Then they began to truly see. They saw the anguish in a face made of torn credit cards and eviction notices. They saw the hope in a bird taking flight, its wings crafted from the silver lining of potato chip bags. An influential critic from the Chicago Tribune stood before the jazz musician portrait, the one that had stopped Isabella in her tracks for a full 10 minutes, scribbling furiously in his notepad. By the end of the night, every single piece had a small red dot next to it. Sold. The review that came out 2 days later was not just a review, it was a proclamation. The critic called Jamal the defining voice of the urban experience, an alchemist who spins garbage into gold and societal neglect into profound art. The story went viral. The Homeless Artist Who Became a Millionaire. The title was on every news channel, every blog. Collectors from New York, London, and Tokyo began a bidding war for his future works. In less than 6 months, Jamal's bank account held more money than he could have imagined in 1,000 lifetimes. He bought a loft not far from his old alley. It was spacious and filled with light, but he kept one brick wall exposed and rough, a reminder of his first gallery. He didn't fill it with fancy furniture, but with more materials, more stories waiting to be told. The money didn't change the artist in him, but it changed what he could do with his platform. He started the Found Foundation, a nonprofit that provided homeless individuals with art supplies, studio space, and mentorship. He funded shelters that offered not just a bed, but creative therapy workshops. One evening, Jamal walked back to his old alley. A new man was huddled there, trying to stay warm. Jamal sat down beside him, not with a handful of cash, but with a warm meal and a sketchbook. "What's your story?" Jamal asked, his voice gentle. He was no longer just Jamal, the homeless man, or even Jamal, the millionaire artist. He was a curator of forgotten stories, both on the canvas and on the cold city streets, proving that every person, like every piece of trash, has a value and a beauty waiting to be seen.